I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do.
19 years I've been at this job. I've seen human beings killed at the hands of others in every way imaginable. You name it, I've seen it. Shootings, stabbings, drownings, suffocatings, blown apart by cars, some DUI manslaughter cases, horrible things. This is the worst case I have ever seen as far as the facts go.
This is the chilling story of Ronnie O'Neal, a name etched into Tampa, Florida's darkest chapter. O'Neal, standing accused of multiple murders, ultimately received one of the most severe punishments the court could hand down. His victims, his own family, his girlfriend Kenyatta Barron, and their 9-year-old daughter Ronnie IV. In a frenzied attack, O'Neal also brutally stabbed his 8-year-old son, Ronnie Jr., before setting their home ablaze in a desperate attempt to erase his heinous crimes. Miraculously, the boy survived and escaped the inferno, carrying the unimaginable burden of witnessing the horror unfold. The night of March 2018 was punctuated by a frantic 911 call from Kenyatta, her voice a mix of terror and desperation before the line went dead. Moments later, O'Neal himself called, raving about white demons inside Kenyatta that he claimed were out to get him, a macabre insight into his twisted rationale. While the murders were harrowing, O'Neal's courtroom antics painted a portrait of a man deeply detached from remorse. Deciding to act as his own lawyer, he transformed the courtroom into a theater of the absurd. He shouted at the jury, spewed conspiracy-laden accusations, and placed the blame squarely on his victims. "Tell it like it is if you're gonna tell it," he roared, his voice echoing in the stunned silence. Judge Michelle Cisco had her patience tested as she reprimanded him repeatedly for his outbursts. With a defiance that chilled the room, O'Neal declared, "I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do." Yet, in a bizarre twist, he offered a hollow apology. "I'm sorry for your loss," he muttered, before returning to a tirade against the justice system. His audacity reached its peak when he cross-examined the son he had tried to kill. Scarred but unbroken, the young boy bravely recounted the night, facing the man responsible for his scars. Judge Cisco, visibly shaken, summed up the case. "In 18 years, I've seen human beings killed in every imaginable way. Shootings, stabbings, drownings, suffocations. This is the worst case I've ever seen." The jury, unanimous in their horror, recommended life without parole, and the judge obliged. O'Neal was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences plus 90 additional years for arson and child abuse, time enough to eclipse lifetimes. Even as the gavel fell, O'Neal's delusional claims persisted. He protested for a retrial, asserting his voice had been silenced, but the court was unmoved. His defense, bizarrely blaming white demons, was shredded by hard evidence and testimony. Unlike O'Neal, some prisoners turned to substances for their defense. Daniel Nicholson, another convict, had his own narrative, but that's another story altogether. On March 18, 2018, in Riverview, Florida, the tranquil night was shattered by a scene that even the most hardened detectives would describe as straight out of a nightmare. Enter Ronnie O'Neal III, a 29-year-old man whose name would soon become infamous for a horrifying spree of violence that defied comprehension. With cold brutality, he shot his ex-girlfriend, 33-year-old Kenyatta Barron, before turning to his 9-year-old daughter Ronnie IV, whom he killed with a hatchet. But the horror didn't end there. Ronnie then turned on his 8-year-old son Ronnie IV, stabbing him before setting their house ablaze in a chaotic attempt to cover his tracks. Yet out of this inferno of terror, a miracle emerged. Ronnie IV, wounded and burned, escaped the flames and delivered the words that would seal his father's fate. "My father shot my mother." The gruesome nature of the crime stunned the community, and led to a court case that played out more like a dark theater of the absurd than a solemn trial. Before the smoke even settled on the family home, a series of bizarre and chilling events had already begun. At 11:43 p.m., the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office received a frantic 911 call, believed to be Kenyatta herself, filled with muffled chaos and desperation. In the background, a male voice could be heard shouting strange, ominous phrases like, "She killed me," and "Don't come outside, call 911 now," punctuated by cries of "Allahu Akbar." The line cut abruptly, but the night was far from over. 8 minutes later, another call came in, this time from a man who identified himself as Ronnie O'Neal III. His voice was unhinged as he ranted about being attacked by white demons and accused Kenyatta, whom he affectionately called K.E., of trying to kill him. He ended the call with an eerie calm, stating, "I just killed her." By 11:49 p.m., deputies arrived to find Kenyatta's lifeless body sprawled in the yard. Inside, the wreckage told a story too terrible for words. O'Neal had shouted, "Come in here, kill this bee," before launching his merciless assault on his daughter and stabbing his son, who somehow managed to escape. When officers moved in to arrest O'Neal, he resisted until a taser subdued him, cursing and branding Kenyatta as the devil, and shockingly calling his own children the devil's kids. He was booked into the county jail, his fate sealed by his surviving son's heartbreaking recounting of that night. The trial that followed was anything but typical. Ronnie O'Neal III decided that if he was going down, he would go down on his terms, by representing himself. It turned into a twisted spectacle of accusations, shouted interrogations, and surreal theatrics as O'Neal questioned his son on the stand. "Did I hurt you that night?" he asked, the courtroom holding its breath. "Yes," the boy answered. When O'Neal pressed further, "How did I hurt you?" his son replied with searing honesty, "You stabbed me." The courtroom was heavy with silence, save for the audible gasps and the pounding of hearts. Despite his attempts to defend himself under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, the judge saw through the smokescreen and deemed him ineligible for such a defense. After days of emotional testimonies and evidence so disturbing, it left seasoned jurors pale. Ronnie O'Neal was found guilty on all counts. On July 23, 2021, he was handed not one, not two, but 3 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 90 years, a legal way of ensuring he would never again walk free. Judge Michelle Cisco, who had seen her fair share of darkness over nearly 2 decades, did not mince words. The case, she declared, was the worst she'd ever seen, emphasizing the sheer cruelty of O'Neal's acts. State Attorney Andrew Warren echoed her sentiments, calling the murders among the most cruel and vicious the community had ever witnessed. But amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope emerged. On November 25, 2019, Ronnie IV, scarred but surviving, was adopted by Detective Mike Blair, one of the officers who had been there that fateful night. Joining Blair's family of 7, Ronnie found love and safety that had been stolen from him. His recovery was nothing short of a miracle, and in his own words, he now felt loved and part of a family. While Ronnie O'Neal III spends his life behind bars, the real story is that of resilience. A young boy who escaped the fire, both literal and metaphorical, to find a new beginning. Ronnie Blair's story became a symbol of resilience in the face of unimaginable horror. After the brutal events of that night, it seemed impossible that he would ever find peace, let alone joy. But in the arms of Mike Blair and his family, Ronnie IV began to rebuild his shattered world piece by piece. The detective, who had initially rushed to the scene not knowing what horrors awaited, ended up being the guiding light in the boy's journey from victim to survivor. Mike and his wife Daniel, already parents to 5 children ranging from their late teens to early 20s, opened their home and their hearts to Ronnie. The transition wasn't easy. Trauma had left deep scars, both visible and unseen. But Ronnie showed a determination that belied his age. Day by day, the boy with haunted eyes learned to smile again. Family dinners, game nights, and the simple comfort of belonging helped him heal in ways that medicine couldn't. Mike Blair, reflecting on that pivotal night, once said that they had no expectation Ronnie would survive his injuries. "It was a miracle," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He knew that Ronnie's story was not just one of survival, but of triumph over the worst of humanity. The boy who had faced death and come out the other side became an inspiration not just for his new family, but for the entire community. Ronnie IV, now known as Ronnie Blair, thrived in the loving chaos of a big family. He brought with him a quiet courage and a deep understanding of how fragile life could be. He excelled at school, made friends, and embraced every new experience with the fervor of someone who knew just how precious those moments were. Mike and Daniel marveled at his strength, watching as the boy who once whispered, "My father shot my mother," grew into a young man determined not to let his past define him. Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, the echoes of Ronnie O'Neal III's trial continued to reverberate. The case became a grim reminder of the limits of justice in the face of such senseless violence. O'Neal, sitting in his prison cell, serving not just life but multiple lives stacked together like the ultimate legal insurance policy, was forever locked away from the world. His name became synonymous with brutality, a shadow that no one wanted to claim. Judge Michelle Cisco's words still lingered in the halls of the courthouse. "The worst case I have ever seen." She knew that no sentence, no matter how severe, could truly account for the horror the victims had endured or the loss suffered by those who loved them. The courtroom, once filled with O'Neal's defiance and the collective heartbreak of witnesses, was now silent, a mausoleum of memories too painful to recount. For Ronnie Blair, the child once trapped in that house of horrors, life was moving forward. He played basketball with his new siblings, learned to ride a bike, and felt the warmth of a mother's hug without fear. The Blair family, once just an extension of a tragedy, became a beacon of hope, showing that love and resilience can turn the darkest stories into ones with new chapters worth celebrating. Ronnie's tale serves as a powerful reminder. While evil may steal the spotlight, it's the quiet acts of kindness and the strength of survivors that truly endure. And so, amidst the whispers of one of Florida's most chilling cases, a young boy's laughter once again filled the air, proving that light can indeed outshine even the darkest of nights.
But I want you to tell it like it is if you're gonna tell it. I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do. But I will say, I'm sorry for your loss.